Stop eating breakfast the way your doctor advised you to back in 1985. If you are over the age of 60 and you begin your morning with toast, cereal, orange juice, or even what you believe is a healthy bowl of oatmeal, I need you to pay very close attention for the next few minutes, because what I am about to share with you could be the deciding factor between waking up feeling energized and steady versus waking up shaky, foggy, and battling a blood sugar surge before you have even left your bedroom. My name is Dr. Jason Fung. I have spent over 2 decades working with patients in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, helping them take control of their blood sugar without feeling as though their entire existence revolves around a glucose monitor. And I want to begin with something that stopped me in my tracks a few years ago. Study tracking more than 1,600 adults over the age of 60 found that the order and composition of your very first meal of the day could shift post-meal blood sugar spikes by as much as 40%. Simply by changing what you eat first, not how much, not calories, not eliminating carbohydrates entirely, just the sequence and the pairing. 40%. That is not a minor statistical blip. That is the difference between a blood sugar reading that makes your doctor nod with approval and one that has them reaching for a prescription pad. And here is the part that truly captured my attention. The item that ranks number 1 on today's list, the most powerful blood sugar stabilizing breakfast strategy I am aware of, is not some rare superfood you have never encountered. It is something sitting in your kitchen right now that almost everyone consumes in exactly the wrong way. I will walk you through it at the very end. And I promise you, once you understand why it works, you will never prepare breakfast the same way again. But before we dive in, I want to ask you something, because I personally read every single comment on these videos, every one of them. Tell me your age and tell me this. What does your breakfast typically look like right now? Toast and coffee, cereal, or have you already started experimenting with some of these ideas? I genuinely want to know, because it shapes what I cover in future videos. And honestly, hearing from you is one of the most rewarding parts of doing this work. Now, let us get into it. I am going to walk you through 5 breakfast strategies ranked from good to absolutely game-changing that can help lower and stabilize your blood sugar starting tomorrow morning. We are going from 5 down to 1, so stay with me, because the ones near the top are the ones almost nobody talks about. Number 5 on the list is building your breakfast around a base of fermented protein-rich dairy. Think plain Greek yogurt or kefir instead of starting with something starchy. Researchers looking at glycemic response in older adults have found that a serving of fermented dairy containing at least 15 to 20 grams of protein eaten before any carbohydrate touches your plate can blunt the resulting blood sugar rise by a meaningful margin, in some observed groups by roughly 20 to 25% compared to eating carbohydrates alone. Here is why this matters so much more after 60 than it did when you were 30. As we age, our muscles develop something called anabolic resistance, which simply means your body becomes less efficient at using protein to maintain and repair muscle tissue, even when you are eating the same amount you always have. Weaker, less responsive muscle tissue is also less effective at pulling glucose or sugar out of your bloodstream after a meal, because muscle is actually one of your body's biggest sugar storage sites. Think of your muscles like a warehouse with loading docks. In your 30s, those loading docks are wide open and trucks unload sugar quickly. After 60, some of those docks start to rust shut. Feeding your body concentrated protein first thing in the morning helps prop those doors back open. For preparation, aim for a half cup to a full cup of plain Greek yogurt or a cup of kefir, unsweetened, first thing in the morning, ideally within 30 to 60 minutes of waking. The synergy tip here is to pair it with a tablespoon of ground flaxseed or chia seeds stirred in, because the added fiber slows gastric emptying, meaning your stomach releases food into your intestines more gradually, which further smooths out that blood sugar curve. I think of Margaret, 68, from a small town outside Tulsa, Oklahoma. She had been managing pre-diabetes for 3 years and told me her morning cereal habit felt impossible to give up until she tried swapping it for yogurt with flax 3 mornings a week. Within 6 weeks, her fasting glucose readings had dropped enough that her doctor commented on it at her next checkup. And she said the biggest surprise was that she was not hungry again by 10 o'clock in the morning the way she used to be. Number 4 is what I call the vinegar window. Specifically, 1 to 2 tablespoons of diluted apple cider vinegar consumed 15 to 20 minutes before your meal. This is not folk medicine. There is real physiology behind it. Research examining acetic acid, the primary active compound in vinegar, has shown it can slow the activity of certain digestive enzymes responsible for breaking starches down into simple sugars. And studies in adults with insulin resistance have recorded post-meal blood sugar reductions in the range of 20 to 34% when vinegar was consumed shortly before a carbohydrate-containing meal. Why does this matter more as we age? Because after roughly age 65, many people experience a natural decline in insulin sensitivity, meaning the same amount of insulin does less work moving sugar out of the bloodstream and into cells than it used to. Slowing down how fast sugar even enters the bloodstream in the first place gives your body's insulin more time to keep up rather than getting overwhelmed. Picture your insulin like a small maintenance crew trying to keep up with sugar arriving on a conveyor belt. Vinegar essentially slows the conveyor belt down so the crew is not overrun. For preparation, mix 1 tablespoon of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar into a full glass of water and sip it slowly about 15 to 20 minutes before you eat. Never drink it undiluted, as the acidity can be hard on your throat and tooth enamel over time. The synergy tip is to pair your vinegar water with a small handful of walnuts or almonds afterward, because the healthy fats further slow digestion and have been associated with improved insulin response in older adults. This is a good moment to pause. If this information feels new and useful to you, and I hope it does, please take 2 seconds to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people just like you. People who are trying to take real control of their health without relying on more and more medication. It costs you nothing and it means everything to this channel. Now, let's keep going, because the next 3 items are where things get really interesting. Number 3 is protein first eating order, and this one surprises almost everyone I explain it to. This is different from item 5 because it is not about what you eat, it is about the sequence in which you eat it, even within the same meal. A landmark line of research on meal sequencing found that when the same foods were eaten in a different order, protein and vegetables first, starchy carbohydrates last, post-meal blood sugar spikes dropped by as much as 30 to 40%, and insulin demand dropped right along with it, even though the total meal was identical. Same eggs, same toast, same fruit, just eaten in a different order. Why does sequencing matter so much for older bodies specifically? It comes down to something called gastric emptying rate, which is how quickly food leaves your stomach and enters your small intestine, where sugar actually gets absorbed into the blood. Protein and fiber-rich foods slow that emptying process. So when they are eaten first, they form a kind of buffer, gently coating the digestive tract and slowing the entry of any sugar that follows. Think of it like sending a slow-moving lead car onto the highway ahead of a fast car. It naturally controls the pace of everything behind it. For practical application, this could not be simpler. If your breakfast includes eggs, a piece of fruit, and toast, eat the eggs first, then the fruit, and eat the toast last, even if it is just 2 or 3 minutes apart. The synergy tip is to add a source of healthy fat, like a few slices of avocado, to whatever you eat first, because fat further slows gastric emptying and has been shown to enhance the entire effect. I want to tell you about Harold, 74, from a suburb outside Phoenix, Arizona. Harold had been on the edge of a type 2 diabetes diagnosis for over a year. He did not want to change what he ate. He loved his eggs and toast, so instead simply changed the order. Eggs first, fruit second, toast last every single morning. At his 3-month follow-up, his A1C, which is a blood test that reflects your average blood sugar over roughly 3 months, had improved enough that his doctor pushed his diagnosis conversation back entirely. Same food, different order. That is the power of this one. Number two, and this is one very few people talk about, is what I call strategic breakfast delay, sometimes referred to as a compressed eating window. This does not mean skipping breakfast entirely. And I want to be very clear about that because for many older adults, skipping meals can actually backfire and cause worse blood sugar swings later in the day. What I am talking about is simply pushing your first meal 60 to 90 minutes later than you currently eat it, giving your body a longer overnight fasting window before it has to process any incoming sugar. Research tracking metabolic markers in adults who extended their overnight fast to 12 to 14 hours found improvements in fasting insulin sensitivity of up to 20% within just a few weeks without any other dietary changes at all. Here is the aging specific piece that makes this so important. Mitochondria, which are the tiny structures inside your cells responsible for turning food into usable energy, naturally become less efficient with age, sometimes losing up to 30% of their function by your 70s. Less efficient mitochondria struggle more to process sugar quickly, especially early in the morning when cortisol, your natural wake up hormone, is already elevated and independently raising blood sugar on its own. Giving your body a slightly longer overnight window before that first bite gives your mitochondria more time to catch up and clear residual sugar from the night before. So you are not stacking a new sugar load on top of one that has not been cleared yet. Think of it like giving a slow dishwasher an extra cycle to finish before you load in more dirty dishes. For practical application, if you currently eat breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning, try shifting it to 8:15 or 8:30 and use that extra time for a short walk, some water, or your morning coffee, black or with a splash of milk, but nothing sweet. The synergy tip is to pair this delayed breakfast with a short 10-minute walk beforehand because light movement further improves how efficiently your muscles absorb glucose once you do eat. Which brings us to number one, the most powerful strategy on this entire list and the one I promise to come back to. It is not a supplement. It is not an exotic ingredient. It is fiber first eating, specifically consuming a substantial dose of soluble fiber as the very first thing you eat in the morning before anything else touches your plate. I am talking about something like a tablespoon and a half of psyllium husk stirred in water, or a generous serving of chia seeds soaked overnight, or even a large portion of cooked oat bran eaten completely on its own before any other food. A study examining soluble fiber intake timing in adults over 65 found that consuming 10 to 15 grams of soluble fiber immediately before a mixed meal reduced the resulting blood sugar spike by as much as 45 to 50%. The single largest effect size of any single intervention researchers tested. Why does this work so dramatically, and especially for aging bodies? Soluble fiber absorbs water and forms a thick gel-like substance in your digestive tract. This gel physically slows the movement of sugar molecules toward the intestinal wall, where they would otherwise be absorbed quickly into your bloodstream. As we age, and particularly after 70, the intestinal lining itself becomes more permeable, and sugar absorption can actually become faster and less regulated than it was in your younger years, a lesser known aspect of the aging gut. That thick fiber gel acts almost like a physical filter, or think of it like pouring water through a wet sponge instead of directly into an open pipe. It dramatically slows how quickly everything gets through. For preparation, stir 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of psyllium husk powder into a full glass of water. Drink it immediately since it thickens fast, and wait 5 to 10 minutes before eating the rest of your meal. If psyllium is not available to you, 2 tablespoons of chia seeds soaked in water or milk overnight works beautifully as well. The synergy tip, and this is important, is to follow your fiber with a source of protein rather than pure carbohydrate, because the combination of fiber's slowing effect and protein's blunting effect together produced the strongest results researchers observed, far more powerful than either one alone. I think about Dolores 71 from a quiet neighborhood in Asheville, North Carolina. She had struggled with morning blood sugar spikes for years despite eating what she considered a healthy breakfast. When she added psyllium fiber before her meal, followed by eggs, within a month, her morning readings had smoothed out so consistently that she told me it was the first time in a decade breakfast did not feel like a gamble. Here is what I want you to take away from all of this. Managing your blood sugar as you get older is not about giving up the foods you love or living in fear of every meal or feeling like your body has betrayed you. It is about understanding that your body still works. It just needs a little more thoughtfulness, a little more strategy than it once did. Every single person I have described today made a small shift, not a complete overhaul, and got their independence back. The ability to travel without worrying about glucose crashes, the energy to keep up with grandchildren, the confidence to walk into a doctor's appointment without dreading the number on the screen. That is what this is really about. It's not perfect numbers on a chart, but a life that still feels like yours. And I want you to hear me clearly. It is never too late to make this shift. Not at 65, not at 75, not at 85. Your body is still listening and it still responds, sometimes faster than you would expect. If this video helped you even a little, please subscribe so you do not miss what I cover next, and hit that like button. It truly helps more people find this information. And I would love to know in the comments below which one of these 5 are you going to try first thing tomorrow morning. I read every single comment, so tell me, and I will see you in the next one.